When I first started playing the guitar in public, many of the venues that I played at didn't have any PA or amplification, and I was just relying on the sound of the guitar to carry into the audience. And a lot of the people that I was listening to at that time, American fingerstyle players and British fingerstyle players mainly, they were all using, or a lot of them were using thumb picks. So it was very, very natural on a steel string guitar for me to do the same. And it was a successful sound. The thumb pick is quite loud, and it projects well into a room. And it also projects well if I was using a microphone, because we didn't have internal microphones in the guitars or piezo pickups. So a thumb pick was a good practical thing to use. But when I went to college then, I started to study classical guitar. Thumb picks would have been very, very frowned upon. Nothing to do with classical guitar. So, and because I was very, very interested in classical guitar technique, I decided that I would abandon the thumb pick, and it sort of went in a box in my room. And then I developed my right hand technique as a classical guitarist. But the truth of the matter is that I never actually gave up using a thumb pick. Every now and then I would dig it out and play. And it's always felt very, very natural to me. And I always enjoyed the sound of the thumb pick as well when I was playing it. And also I would use it out of necessity, because occasionally I might break a thumbnail. And then the thumb pick was this great reliable fallback tool that I had, which sometimes would save the day for me if I had a performance coming up or if I was teaching. Now, as a classical guitarist, I'm well aware of the objections to using thumb picks. So I might just sort of itemize those for a moment and talk about those. The first one is, I think, a very, very significant objection, and it's this idea about muting strings that you don't want to sound. So, for example, if you're playing a piece of Bach, you might not want some of the open string bass notes to ring out. So on that occasion, then you'd use the thumb to mute the open string, or the string that was sounding. Also, string muting is a very, very important part of playing rhythmically and getting rhythmic rests which punctuate the sound of the guitar to produce a strong rhythm. So you can mute using a thumb pick. Another thing that classical guitarists quite often say is that you can't get this flesh sound with a thumb pick, and this is undoubtedly true. Tied in with that is this objection that people sometimes have that the thumb pick is somehow artificial. So this comes from two directions, really. The first one is people who are used to playing classical guitar with an orthodox classical guitar technique say that the thumb pick sort of separates from the instrument. They don't feel as connected. I don't think that this is a terribly legitimate perspective to have, because it really arises out of the fact that a classical guitarist trying a thumb pick for the first time doesn't really feel familiar with it, and so will tend to feel that when he plays it. If you stay with practicing with the thumb pick for longer, then you'll find that you do start to feel very, very at home using it. So I don't think that's an entirely legitimate criticism of the thing. The other thing that's sometimes said is that it produces a more artificial sound with the thumb. And I suppose there can be some truth to this, the organic nail and the flesh and all that. But a very large amount of classical guitarists, professional classical guitarists these days, use artificial nails that are stuck on, which are made out of plastic. So again, although there is some legitimacy in saying that, making those points, I don't think that's totally true either. Now, the last objection that I can think of to using a thumb pick is the fact that one would have to change the hand position to be able to go between playing without the thumb pick and with the thumb pick. And although, again, if you're not used to using the thumb pick, this might seem to be true. In my experience, I actually find that it's not true. I tend to use the thumb pick with a slightly longer shaft on it. And the actual hand position, I assume, is more or less the same. Although there is a default hand position for playing in classical guitar for playing, the default hand position is changed subtly as you're playing. It's not like you hold a rigid hand position. That's how the hand has to be held. In fact, to think like that, I think, is probably quite counterproductive. So any guitarist is used to shifting and changing the hand position as they play. So I can only speak personally, but I haven't found this to be a particular problem in my own playing, going between playing with the thumb pick and playing with the fingers. Now, we could get onto some of the advantages of using a thumb pick. So the first thing I sort of mentioned a little bit earlier was this idea that you can get this very, very broad range of sounds from a thumb pick. And I think this is true. For a start, you can shape a thumb pick in all sorts of different ways. And on the market, there are lots and lots of different shaped thumb picks, and each one of them gives a slightly different sound. You can also, with a nail file, you can shape and polish the edge of a thumb pick differently as well. And then on top of that, thumb picks are also made out of a very, very wide variety of different materials, and each different material gives a different sound. And if you just do some research, you can find thumb picks made out of metal, leather, all sorts of types of plastic, and some new materials, sort of space-age materials as well. And they're all very interesting to play with, and each one sounds different. And each one is giving you all these different colours in your sound in a way that just the flesh and the nail actually can't. So I think that's quite an important consideration when you're playing. The other big consideration about the thumb pick is that it's a very reliable thing. They don't break. And even if they do break, you've got a spare one in your pocket. This is not true of the thumbnail, as any classical guitarist will tell you. As I mentioned earlier, there's also an issue about volume with the thumb pick. A thumb pick doesn't necessarily create quite as warm a sound as the flesh, but it produces, I think, a much fuller sound than the nail. And it also is capable, if you drive it, of actually sounding much louder than the nail. So if you need a very, very strong present bass, a thumb pick has the ability to do that. You can really push through. And as I say, it tends to be well picked up with a microphone, or if you're playing without a microphone. The thumb pick can also be adapted to become a plectrum by just holding it as a plectrum. Again, it takes a little bit of practice, but once you can do it, it feels very, very natural to do it. And this gives you all the advantages of using all the tonal and the attack advantages that plectrum players have, which is something that you couldn't get just with the fingers. And if you listen to a great plectrum player, or not just on the guitar, but on the oud as well, which is a favourite instrument of mine, you can hear just how articulate and expressive and powerful actually a plectrum technique can be. And I think that to be able to bring that into your own guitar playing and combine that playing finger style as well is a significant advantage. Another massive advantage in playing with a thumb pick is the variety of different timbres, different sounds that you can get with palm use. When you're playing with classical guitar, you can only get the flesh with a palm mute because of the angle of the thumb as you place the palm against the bridge. It's not really practical to use the nail, just the flesh. And so this makes a very, very pleasant sort of thumpy sound, but that's about all you get. You can vary it by moving the palm and your attack to some extent. But in comparison to what you can get with a thumb pick, there's a vast range of different timbres, including things like pinched harmonics and almost percussive sounds if you move the hand up towards the sound hole, to very, very appealing, strong muted sounds as well, and very gentle muted sounds too when you're using the thumb pick. And even when you're muting, you still get that clarity and that attack in the bass if you need it. It's still there.
One moment.
So in conclusion, I would suggest that we guitarists, whether we're playing steel string or classical guitar, that we use both thumb on its own and thumb pick. I don't see any reason why not. I mean, we're constantly looking for ways to expand the range of techniques that we use. We're constantly looking for ways to expand the timbral possibilities and the dynamic possibilities of the instrument. And it seems to me that by introducing a thumb pick into your playing, it actually allows you to do that, both on a classical nylon string guitar and on a steel string guitar as well.
Continue. I don't mind.
I think that it's very, very common for we guitarists in whatever style we play to get sort of locked into tram lines, to think, well, these great guitarists of the past played this way, and so we should just play that way ourselves as well.
The guitar is not a dry instrument. I don't know the many of all the people that are coming to me. Continue.
And I don't really think that that's true. I think we should continue exploring and introducing new ideas into our playing. It's also worth considering that there's quite a lot of evidence that in Baroque times and Renaissance times that lucenists actually used thumb picks. They would use some kind of a thimble with a quill attached to it. So that poses some significant questions for early music people who wants to sound authentic.
Well, listen, if you have to play my transition, play my transition. Otherwise, go to another person that made better transition than I. Fuera.
So use thumbs and thumb picks and be open and explore things.